We haven't a lot of information. We don't have a lot on Jayden Daniels. I would put Jayden Daniels at number 6. I think this is about the best rookie quarterback I've seen since Elway and Andrew Luck. He is so good late in games, it just doesn't make sense. Poise, intelligence, mobility. I mean, look at this throw in the end zone. That's like his third, fourth guy he's looked at. He's just... Now, again, you could say, Colin, he's better than Goff. Well, right now, I would take Goff in a big game because I've seen him win a lot of big games. But I'd put Jayden Daniels at 6.
Yeah, this is wild. If you're a Washington Commanders fan, I mean, can you be more excited right now that you have a top quarterback and a true first-year rookie? I'm just trying to get to the top 8. There you go, where you can see it all. You know, a true bona fide rookie, not someone that like sat out. I know he's a little bit older and all that, which don't get me started on that nonsense. You know, for the sake of argument, sometimes I really like to back myself in a corner with some of these conversations because I can explain away anything. I can explain why Jayden Daniels is more valuable than the Chiefs, right? Doesn't mean that I'm going to pick Patrick Mahomes or pick Jayden Daniels over Mahomes. Or I can make the argument that CJ Stroud is actually better than Lamar Jackson. Like, I could argue anything. I really can. And so for me, actually, that's why I always try to get to like the truth. Sometimes it takes a second for me to try to figure out how do I really feel, because I can debate and argue with the best of them. And so sometimes though I have fun kind of backing myself in a corner and being like, all right, let's kind of get lost in the weeds. Let's tie ourselves in a few knots and figure out what we can kind of come up with here. Because I find it fun. I find it interesting. I find it fascinating. And that actually helps me get closer to the truth than not. Because it's very easy just to say certain things like, oh, he's a rookie. And, oh, well, clearly Lamar's better. Oh, clearly this. And it's just like, maybe not. But when it comes to some of these other quarterbacks, like I think the best argument to move Jayden Daniels up would be Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. Now, again, to be very clear, I love both those quarterbacks. I think both those quarterbacks are great. I think Matthew Stafford especially is truly elite. My biggest thing, and I've said this now a lot recently because of the Rams being in the playoffs, is like, to me, the hardest part of evaluating Matthew Stafford is 90% of his career was in Detroit, where he was just nothing. I mean, it was just like not his fault. Okay, like it was just a disastrous of an organization, coaching, players, etc. And then when he gets with McVay, he finally can show who he is. And of course, what happens? He's like 6-1 in the playoffs, Super Bowl. He's truly special elite, but he's older now. And so it's just harder. If he played with the Rams and had McVay or had an Andy Reid or Shanahan or anything like that, when he was 25, 26, 27, we would be talking about Stafford in the same conversation as Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, maybe not so much Tom Brady, but who knows, because before Tom Brady won his 7th Super Bowl, a lot of people were really comparing Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning, etc. And so, but again, at this point, if I'm just talking about at this point in 2025, like, yes, Stafford's ability to throw the ball is still special, still elite. And I think Jared Goff's ability to throw the ball as well, because they're actually very similar in that regard. You know, both of their superpowers are elite playmakers in the pocket. I mean, it's just, and you can't take it for granted. I mean, people are so obsessed always with like, with you know, total passing yards and a completion percentage and things of that. And it's more than that. It's more than that. It's how are they playmakers from within the pocket? Their ability to move defenders with their eyes, their ability to move within the pocket, which, you know, sometimes when you watch quarterbacks play, you realize like it's a lot more complicated than it looks. Like a lot of times it's like, oh, just step into the pocket, or oh, just move over, and it's like you see a lot of quarterbacks fail to do that, or they leave the pocket too early or too late, you know, whatever it may be. Also, you know, throwing with anticipation, which is always one of my favorite things when I really look for like what makes someone throw the ball, what makes them a special passer. And because anytime you ever try to say, oh, so and so is a great passer, better passer than, say, you know, this quarterback, box score stats, and it's just more than that. It's why someone like even Brock Purdy doesn't get the credit for his ability to pass the ball as much as he would, because they're like, well, his stats are just because of, playing with a great coach or a great quarterback or with great weapons. And it's like, that doesn't change his ability to make some of these throws that he's making. The throws that he's actually making, his ability to read the defenses, his ability to throw with anticipation has nothing to do with Shanahan. That has nothing to do with who he's throwing to. And so that's why it's like, I really encourage you to like sometimes really look at what you're seeing. Really look at it. Like, again, the box score doesn't show Jayden Daniels' throw to Eckler out of the 2-minute warning. That to me, I've said it so many times now, continues to be one of my favorite throws in the entire season. And yet it was a short, like 5-yard throw or 6, however many yards it was, but it was the way he threw it, the anticipation, where Eckler was at the time that Jayden threw the ball. I mean, like, it was just, and in the moment that he needed to make that throw, fourth quarter, coming from behind, like, it's just, right? That is what happens when you say an elite passer. That is an elite throw, and it's just special. And yet you could have another quarterback throw for like 350 yards, not do that once, and you'll be like, well, he's clearly a better passer. And it's like, no, you got to really zoom in and look at what you're seeing. But I can see the argument as to why Stafford and Jared Goff would be ahead of Jayden Daniels in this moment of time, mainly because we know what those guys have done, and they've consistently done it many, many, many times for years in different seasons. And Jayden Daniels doesn't have that yet because he obviously is a rookie. But that's where the rookie mindset constantly plays tricks on us. And that's why my favorite thing to do is, at least it's become my favorite thing this season, is to remove all of that. Remove any bias about what you know, or not bias, but like any, prior knowledge that you have to any of these quarterbacks in terms of what they've done in the past. I really think that this is such a more enjoyable way to go about, evaluating quarterback play throughout the season. Because we know Patrick Mahomes has won multiple Super Bowls. We know Lamar Jackson has MVPs, right? We know all those things. We know what Stafford did in 2021 or whatever the year was. We've seen Goff. Like, we know all that. We know all that. We know all that. We know all that. But if we just remove all of that and we're just talking about this season right now, heck, just these playoffs right now, this playoff run. Now, granted, not all those quarterbacks have played, specifically Goff and Mahomes. Like, you would put Jayden Daniels higher up. Just based off the last 2 playoff games, you would put, let's just include the last playoffs minus Mahomes, because he obviously won the Super Bowl. And so, of course, when you win the Super Bowl, that's like that's the big weight drop. But let's just remove that. Let's just remove that and look at Josh Allen's playoffs, Lamar Jackson's playoffs, Stafford's playoffs, Jared Goff, and Jayden Daniels. I just don't know how you're going to leave Jayden Daniels at 6 then. I just don't. Especially what we saw out of him do against the Buccaneers. And if we compare what Jayden Daniels did against the Buccaneers than what Matthew Stafford did against the Vikings, again, if we didn't know anything about these quarterbacks, if actually we did, we just knew this season and didn't know what they did in the playoffs, you are picking Jayden Daniels over Stafford. You just are. And again, I think Stafford is an elite passer of the ball. I really, really, really do. But what Jayden Daniels is able to add is just special. It's just different. Not to mention, he is also a pretty special passer himself. Clearly, like, I would say he's an elite passer, but even in my own mind, as I go back on me just saying, let's just focus on this season, like, the only reason why I would not say he's an elite passer just yet is because I'm like, well, if I'm really going to make the claim that someone is a true elite passer, I'm like, well, I do need you to do it another year or 2 or something for me to really firmly be like, that is an elite passer. He's shown elite passing this season, but I can't like give that identity to him. Just like how I think he's been an elite quarterback this season, but I can't say he is an elite quarterback. Again, it's a game of semantics, and it's why these conversations always matter and are fun, but they also like don't matter at all, because it's just, it's just it's just sports talk, like it's the foundation of it all. But again, you could make the argument, like I made this argument actually on when Nick did his playoff tiers. Like what Jayden Daniels did was just this playoff run now. So all of these quarterbacks except for Mahomes and Goff each played one playoff game. Jayden Daniels was the most impressive. Jayden Daniels did more than Josh Allen did with the against the Broncos. Jayden Daniels did more for the Commanders than Lamar Jackson did with the Baltimore Ravens against the Steelers and Stafford and so forth. He just did. And I don't think anybody would argue that if we didn't know who Lamar was, who Josh Allen was, who Matthew Stafford was. Like, I don't see how you couldn't say that he had that best game. And so to me, it's just more fun to kind of do that. Because my gut tells me if I'm watching all of this and I'm just like, all right, you've seen the past, you saw the whole season. Who would you rather have, Jayden Daniels or Josh Allen? I'm like, I'm going to go with Josh Allen, right? I just am, as much as I praise Jayden Daniels. But if we're just looking at it in this more micro level, it's like, oh, well, I've seen Jayden Daniels do more. I've seen Jayden Daniels do this, and I didn't see Josh Allen do that. I didn't see Lamar do that. I didn't see Stafford do that. We always talk about this big play moments, these quarterbacks rising to the occasion. It's why people question Jared Goff. It's why they question Matthew Stafford. It's why they question Lamar, or still currently question Lamar. It's why they question CJ. Out of all these quarterbacks, really the only quarterbacks that really proved that I can handle this moment technically, was Mahomes, Allen, Jalen Hurts, and Stafford. Those are the quarterbacks that when the moment truly called for it, they were able to be a hero. A bona fide hero. And you can kind of maybe make the argument for Goff, but you haven't actually necessarily seen that in Baltimore, with Lamar, with CJ, and again, I guess it's a question mark if you want to make the argument that Jared Goff showed that in the NFC Championship game. So there is definitely an argument for that. But now we saw Jayden Daniels do it. We saw him do it. We saw him do it as clear as day. And when you add the whole on the road being a rookie, it just makes it even bigger. So yeah, I mean, these rankings are always funny to me. And again, it all depends on what you value, what you think is more important, because again, you have CJ ahead of Jalen Hurts, which I'm going to make a separate video about. But you have CJ ahead of Jalen Hurts, and it's like Jalen Hurts proved that he could ball out in a Super Bowl. Last time I checked, that's what every team wants. Every team wants a quarterback who they know can rise to the occasion and ball out in a Super Bowl, yet CJ has never shown that. Again, technically, Jayden Daniels has never shown that. Jared Goff has not shown that. Lamar hasn't shown that. Josh Allen, so again, it's like, it's these conversations. That's why I kind of prefaced in the very beginning that like I can make an argument for anything. I can say, yeah, Jalen Hurts showed that he could do that, but he's shown that he's not consistent enough. And so even though Josh Allen hasn't been to a Super Bowl, I'm still picking Josh. Like, you could always make the argument. It just all depends on what you value, what you think is more closer to the truth. What do you think is going to be a prediction? What was just a singular moment in time for said, quarterback's career. Like, all this stuff is always interesting to me, which is why, again, I do enjoy being backed into the corner, being forced to sometimes make these decisions, because my default is to not. My default is to just be like, no, all these quarterbacks are great. I would take any of them on my team, but it's like, all right, let's try to drill down even deeper on this and what does this all mean? But my other issue with some of these videos and some of these conversations is no matter what, everyone's incredibly unhappy. Like, again, you make this video and people are like, Josh Allen instead of Lamar Jackson, what a joke. That's disgusting. That's insane. Matthew Stafford instead of, in front of Jalen Hurts. What has he done? And it's just like, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's like, you get further and further away from real conversations, which is why I try to set the tone for this type of conversation in a more hypothetical atmosphere, because then I feel like it gives us this the whole sandbox mentality where it's like, we're just having fun. We're just kind of having some interesting conversations. None of these are set in stone. It's a sandbox. We're playing in the sandbox. Like, it's not saying this is 100% the truth. It's just like, well, let's talk about these various scenarios and what do they mean. That's just how my mind works, and that's what I personally enjoy. So, hopefully you guys do too. But hopefully all of that made sense. We are definitely officially 1000%, and I said this yesterday, we are already transitioning into March football content where we're just like, let's rank the top 8, quarterbacks in the playoffs. And it's just like you start pulling for content because there's only so many times you can talk about the Commanders matchup against the Lions and the Bills versus the Ravens and the Eagles versus the Rams. And do the Texans have a chance versus the Kansas City Chiefs? It's like, well, we've already made 40 videos talking about that. So let's just see, who would you rather have, CJ Stroud or Jayden Daniels? And it's just like, that is March, April, May, and June football conversation. And I guess, we're doing it. I mean, Colin had the commissioner for the NBA on, yesterday. And I'm like, dude, it's the playoffs. What are we doing? And it's just like, oh, I guess like you've already talked about all you already said all the takes that you have. You can only have it so many times. So yeah, sure. Let's, let's interview the commissioner for the NBA, in the middle of the playoffs for the NFL. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Colin's top 8 quarterbacks and kind of where you would put Jayden Daniels? I may just make a video for each of these individual quarterbacks because I'm also looking to have conversations. I'm not, immune to that either. But let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.